So overnight, there was quite an exciting thing that happened. The legend himself, Jeremy J.J. Coulthard, or as I like to call him, DJJ Coulthard, released a few Toontown Online design documents that Toontown Rewritten had already digitally scanned, but had not shared publicly. Here's hoping this inspires Toontown Rewritten to scan the rest of these documents, as honestly, high-quality scanning is not needed for these design documents. And Jeremy and I would both love to credit Toontown Rewritten as the ones coming forward with these incredible pieces of Toontown history. Link in the description to the Reddit post containing these documents. But today, we're here to talk about landmark buildings, aka the predecessor to cog buildings. What's contained in this document and this video is the actual design document for cog buildings. What this means is that this document we're looking at is the document containing cog buildings back when it was only a concept written by whoever came up with cog buildings, detailing how they'd work once developed in the year 2000. Let me also make a quick preface here that this document was written before cogs were a thing. Yes, that's right, early in Toontown's development, cogs were actually known as suits, human businessmen that wanted to take over Toontown and turn it into a dull and gray space. Once that was rejected by Disney executives, they turned them into robots in the pitch, never mentioning that they were going to be business robots and managing to skate by with what we now know as cogs. This document was revised to its current form on October 17th, 2000, 3 years before Toontown would release publicly and nearly 20 years ago from the publication of this video. So let's familiarize ourselves with their presented terminology for landmark buildings. Number 1 is landmark building. A landmark building is a special, more dimensional building found in the streets of Toontown that can be entered and taken over by suits. When taken over, it turns into a suit building. So basically, this is just a regular shop, like the Toontown Post Office, the Blizzard Wizard, whatever toon shop on any street. This is what is referred to as a landmark building. Number 2 is a suit building. A suit building is a landmark building taken over by suits. You know this today as cog buildings. Number 3 is flat building. A flat building is used to fill the space between landmark buildings. So what I would say is, instead of building, think of this as merely walls or things you can't directly interact with, like the diner buildings in Toontown Central. Number 4 is block. A block is a landmark building and its surrounding flat buildings that in code are tied to that building. So for example, when a toon shop is taken over, there's a number of walls next to it that are also captured and turned into a cog building or cog wall. That would be that shop's block. Number 5 is suit track. This is a fun look into how suits were going to play out: corporate, legal, social, or money. Again, remember that these were human businessmen enemies, not robots. Number 6 is suit level. Each suit track had 8 levels. Level 1 is the weakest, level 8 is the strongest, meaning at this point they hadn't planned for any enemy over level 8 at this point. So now we move on to section 2, the general synopsis of landmark buildings. There are toon landmark buildings that can be taken over by any suit. A suit takes over the building by walking through the front door. When the building gets taken over by a suit, the building changes from the colorful toon style to a gray corporate style. While the building is occupied by suits, it will output more suits into the streets like an infestation. A group of toons can enter the building to win it back. The group will face a series of increasingly difficult suit battles. By winning all the battles, the toons will reclaim the building for Toontown until the next time a suit takes it over. So, basically, very similar to how cog buildings function today. They had no mention of the actual transformation process buildings undergo when becoming cog buildings, but I think it's safe to assume the current day version of the buildings dropping out of the sky was probably not the plan at this point in time. Section 3 of this document now goes into detail about the toon version of landmark buildings, specifically how doors would work. It might sound boring just hearing that, but actually it has some incredibly interesting details, so you'll want to hear about this. 3.1 Landmark buildings have double-door dimensional entrances at the top of a small flight of stairs. So, in the final product, we didn't always have this small flight of stairs on every shop, but some shops did. For those that may not know, dimensional entrances mean a doorway that'll transport your toon to a new area, meaning the shop's interior, that isn't actually connected to the street. That isn't actually in the same room or map as the street, if that makes sense. 3.2, the double front door will have an entrance door on the right and an exit door on the left. This is still exactly how it works today with the double door system. 3.3, a toon can enter the landmark building by walking up the stairs. When the collision system detects the toon on the stairs, a canned series of movements will take place to walk the toon up the steps into the enter door. Now this is really where it starts to diverge from the modern day implementation. There are no stairs that detect collisions in the way that this described. It works similarly enough in function, however, as the detection is actually on the door itself, and the canned movement has you simply walk into the open door. 3.4, when the toon enters, the camera will pull in past the toon and up to a virtual plaque with information on it. See diagram below. Now this is really interesting. It's like a prehistoric version of the toon rescue frames on the inside of shops. It's curious to see how they had intended you to walk into a shop, and all you saw was this plaque getting shoved into your face. You could get a simple shop description, like this one here that says a pet store employee named Blair was missing a small patch of hair. A tarantula crawled to the spot that was bald and nobody noticed it was there. Read the previously rescued by, which, shout out Flippy, all the way back in 2000 was mentioned there. Wonder what happened to Dippy, Kitty, and Blippy though. You could take a shortcut, I assume, to the next door shop by pressing just a button or exit. That's all there is to this building. That's it for toon shops at this point. That's incredibly interesting. 3.5, when the exit button is clicked, the toon exits back to the street. A canned sequence will take the camera and toon out of the door, down the steps, and back to normal navigation mode. This means, as I said, they hadn't actually intended at this point for there to be any shop interiors, believe it or not. All there was inside shops was that plaque. Otherwise, you had to go next door with the button or back out to the street. Really interesting to see that system get developed so much further from this early concept. 3.6, when a suit takes over a toon landmark building, it immediately exits all toons inside. This system, however, still exists as any toons inside a landmark building do get booted back outside when taken over. 3.7, the moment a suit decides to take over a toon landmark building, the front door immediately locks all other toons out. Also still correct. If you try to enter one when it is being taken over, you get a dialog box telling you to watch out. 3.8, door opening and closing is managed by a reference count and a distributed update by the AI client. Finishes off with some technical info that isn't really too interesting to note from a casual standpoint. Section 4 goes into toon side building doors. You'll quickly become familiar with these, I'd believe. 4.1, one or two flat buildings on each block will have flat single doors for visual interest. Try just about every single shop on the street having these flat single doors for visual interest in today's Toontown. 4.2, when a toon approaches a flat door, collides with an invisible range around the door will tell a knock-knock joke. This still exists today. Knock-knock doors are loud and proud in today's game. 4.3, the same joke will appear on all doors on a given block. This one's a bit of a buzzkill, isn't it? Almost every door in Toontown has a unique knock-knock joke, thankfully, unlike this concept. Section 5 now goes into suit buildings, which remember is cog buildings. So let's take a dive into that. 5.1, when a landmark building gets taken over by a suit, the suit building facade will be themed to the same track as the entering suit. So this still today is completely how cog buildings work. Cashbot buildings have a cashbot themed exterior. Same goes for every other suit type. The facade of the building looks like the suit that took over it. The front entrance to the suit building will be an elevator. The elevator doors will be open when the building can be taken over. The doors will be closed when a group of toons is already inside the building. Again, it's exactly how it still works today. Open when available, closed when toons are inside. 5.3, the suit block will have side doors, themed as an elevator in the same place as the toon block. The suit side doors will be used to allow suits to enter and exit the building. They will enter on the right side and exit on the left side to prevent collisions. So this again is still exactly how it works today. I'm not sure exactly if it's an elevator door or really what it is, but those knock-knock doors are transformed into cog doors that allow cogs to spawn or despawn on or off streets when it's a cog building. 5.4, the suits that the building outputs will be the same track as the building itself. This one's pretty logical. Cashbots should come out of a cashbot building. 5.5, about 80% of the suits in the battles inside the building will be from that track, with the other 20% providing some variety. This is not, however, how things work today. Every single cog inside a cog building is always of the same type unless there's an invasion. 5.6, suits come out of the side doors of the suit flat buildings. This disperses their entry points. The fact that they made this statement here, while sounding repetitive mentioning the side doors, makes me wonder if they had intended for cogs to actually enter the building to battle toons inside via those side doors, and not just used for solely spawning street cogs or something. Otherwise, they're just kind of rehashing a point they said earlier, which I don't quite understand. 5.7, when a suit is walking across the sidewalk to get from the door to the street or from the street to the door, you cannot engage him in battle. He will bulldoze through any toons he collides with. Anyone that's played Toontown for a while will know this is still exactly how it works. Cogs dismiss you pretty bluntly when going into or out of a cog building. 5.8, suit levels 1 to 5 are roaming the streets, suit levels 6 to 7 are building bosses, suit level 8 is only used for HQ bosses. Now this is interesting, as it really shows you how simple their overall design of the game was at this point in time. Level 8 cogs only being used for HQ bosses? Interesting that they even mention HQ bosses at this point in time. The last tier of cog does start at level 8, but in current day Toontown you can find all levels of cogs and buildings, and I believe up to level 9s on some streets. Section 6 is entering suit buildings. 6.1, only a group of toons, 2 to 4, may enter a suit building. No love for the soloing community. The max limit is still 4, but you can go by your lonesome in today's Toontown. 6.2, the elevator will have a display over the door to show which floor it is on, as well as how many floors there are total. This is an interesting early concept of how floors would be displayed, kind of a more classical meter-like display, rather than the elevator light system we use in today's Toontown. 6.3, the group will queue up in the elevator of the building, similar to the trolley system. Yeah, this is still how it works today. Everyone hops on and waits for the timer to expire. 6.4, when the first toon enters the elevator, he occupies one slot. When the second person enters, he occupies the second slot, and the elevator timer starts counting down. When the timer has expired, the doors close and the group in the elevator begin their battles. When the fourth person joins, the elevator doors immediately close. So I kind of get now why there's a limit of 2 to 4 in this concept, because the idea was that if you hopped onto an elevator, you could just stand there and wait for somebody else to join you, but it's not the best design and people should be able to do it solo if they wanted to. But the toons taking their respective spots is still accurate. However, what's not accurate is the doors automatically closing when 4 toons are on the elevator. Could you imagine the shuffling frustration if you were forced to go automatically whenever 4 toons were on the elevator? 6.5 and 6.6, only one group of toons will be allowed to be in the building at any time. If they quit or are defeated, the building will be available to the next group that wants to enter. And when a group is defeated, the elevator will return to the first floor and the doors will open. Still the same as today. If you lose, the elevator doors reopen and are available to a new challenger. Section 7 is regarding the difficulty of cog buildings. 7.1, the difficulty of the suit building will be proportional to the level of the suit that took it over. Still the same as today. If a higher cog takes over a toon building, it's going to be a harder building. 7.2, the difficulty of the building can be adjusted by varying the number of successive battles, the number of suits in each battle, and the difficulty level of each suit. More of a suggested guideline than a rule, I'd say, but it's still kind of how it works today. 7.3, the difficulty of the building will be apparent through the number of floors on the building that are shown over the elevator entrance. Still true, a 5-story is much more feared than a 2-story cog building. Section 8 covers what's inside of cog buildings. 8.1, the inside of suit buildings will be a series of rooms where battles take place. Still true today. I'm not 100% if they meant rooms meaning not as linear as it is today with floors, but it's still a true statement regardless. 8.2, the toons will not be able to walk freely around the room. They will go directly into battle. I'm assuming this is meant by the first battle, which is true. You have to deal with the battle in the room first with no ability to roam freely until done. 8.3, after battle they will be in a waiting state where they can chat, trade, heal, exit, or board the elevator to advance. This is incredibly interesting. What in the world would toons be trading? Their gags? Perhaps this is something that could be covered by more design documents that we don't currently have access to. Perhaps once Toontown Rewritten does release them, we'll be able to crack the case on this further. I believe I had also overheard once that there was some sort of basic code somewhere for healing after cog building floors, but that system was also not implemented. The rest is still the same as today though. 8.4, there is one battle per floor. To advance to the next battle, the toons will board the elevator, using a menu choice and advance to the next floor. Sort of true, but I'd say more false than true. You do have a basic battle, but often cogs will file in from the elevator. So while it's technically in code one long continuous battle, there's a feeling of waves of cogs or multiple battles to it that isn't described here. Section 9 talks about the cog building battle details. 9.1, there will be 2 to 5 battles depending on the difficulty level of the building. See, I'm not sure how this fits considering their very last statement that says there is 1 battle per floor. If it's a 1-story building and there's supposed to be only 1 battle per floor, why would there be a minimum of 2 battles? Either way, this is very incorrect. Even if you're counting the elevators of cogs as a separate battle, or if you're not, then there's still only 1 battle per floor, making this inaccurate to start with 2. 9.2, you cannot run from a battle inside a building. Cog buildings are only for the courageous. You still cannot run from a battle in a building. 9.3, if one member of the group dies, that person will be sent to the nearest safe zone for recovery, and the entire group will be ejected from the building. This one is interesting. Originally, if you died, you took the team down with them. Imagine the greening possibilities if they kept this system. Nobody would ever make great progress with that. 9.4, you cannot call for help from a battle inside a building. Still true today. You can call for an SOS or your doodle, but not a friend, and that's what the statement was referring to. 9.5, you cannot teleport out of a battle inside a building. Save for some glitches throughout the years, this is still true. 9.6, nobody else can teleport to you while you are in a building. This is also still true. Section 10 talks about checkpoints, the end of a cog building floor. 10.1, after each battle in a building, the toons will be left in the room to regroup at a checkpoint. Still true to this day. 10.2, you can individually exit the building at a checkpoint. You return to outside the building to be discussed. This one is mostly false. You can exit anytime by just teleporting out after a battle, but there's no mechanism to exit you back onto the street, especially not individually. 10.3, the checkpoint interface will provide buttons to exit, heal, trade, and go to next battle. Again, what is trading? I want to know. There's also no interface after a battle. You either just get on the elevator or you teleport out. 10.4, when a toon chooses to go on to the next battle, his character moves up to the elevator door and waits for the other toons. Sort of, you hop on the elevator and you wait for toons. 10.5, when all toons in the group have entered the elevator, they advance to the next battle. This is true. Section 11 talks about suit ecology, basically how suits function on streets and kind of in general. 11.1, to initially populate the world, new suits come from elevators that rise out of the ground. Absolutely not. In modern Toontown, they fly down using their propellers. Could you imagine random elevators popping up out of the ground, spawning cogs? That'd be pretty spooky. 11.2, each branch of a neighborhood is a separate isolated suit ecosystem. Suit cannot travel between branches. This one is a little harder for me to decipher because I guess I'd need more knowledge on what branches are. Maybe if a branch is a street, yes, because streets have their own ecosystem of cogs, and obviously cogs can't travel in between streets, or if it's a street with a specific ecosystem, a cog that isn't in there wouldn't be there besides a summon or an invasion. I don't know, it's a little unclear what exactly I guess a branch is, but I would say their concept seems a little bit more rigid than what we got. Like, cogs of a certain type are only in this part of a neighborhood, instead of being probably a more generous percentage ecosystem like streets are today. There's just a number of questions involved here. 11.3, when a wandering suit walks up to a battle, he joins it if it is not full. Each neighborhood can define what full means. In an easy neighborhood, there may be a max of only 1 or 2 suits per battle. In a difficult neighborhood, the max is 4. This is still true. If you have enemy space available, there's a chance the cog will join. The original concept sounds a bit more expectant that they would always join, but that would be quickly frustrating. I imagine they found it needed to be ironed out to a mere chance of them to join. I also believe max cogs that can join per battle is based on how many toons are in the battle in specific playgrounds, depending on what they set for those playgrounds, unlike the rigid outline they described here with only having 1 or 2 per battle in an easy neighborhood altogether. 11.4, if the battle is full, the suit will ask for a new assignment from the AI client. Assignments are patrolling, taking over a building, or entering a suit building. This is not true. in today's Toontown. The cog would actually despawn by flying off if the battle is full instead of looking for a new assignment. 11.5, taking over a building will be the default assignment. If all accessible buildings in the branch are already taken over or already assigned to another suit, then other assignments will be given. I'm not sure if this is still how cogs function in today's Toontown. It might be, but you could also very well convince me that their default assignment is patrolling, with the chance of taking over a cog building, as long as the cog building limit isn't currently met on that street. 11.6, the rate that elevators appear creating new suits will be determined by the following function. Elevators will only appear to bootstrap the suit population. After 10 to 20% infestation, no more elevators will be necessary. Now, this is a very interesting stat and graph detailing how the flow of cog populating would have worked. I can't lie when I say that the graph confuses the heck out of me, but you can understand some of the details when you read it over a few times. And lastly, section 12 details some ongoing issues that are yet to be solved. 12.1 is interior art design. 12.2 is what do building transitions tuned to suit buildings look like. 12.3 is winning and losing storyboards, and 12.4 is can I quit the game or go back to my room from within a battle. First, the interior art of tuned buildings and suit buildings were, I assume, up in the air at this point. Second is how did tuned buildings turn into suit buildings and vice versa was a thing they had yet to figure out, only detailing earlier that it turned into a gray building, confirming what my suspicion was. Third, winning and losing storyboards were needed to display what would happen once you won or lost a cog building. Winning has a small story kind of board type thing with Toons dancing. Then when you exit the building as the building falls and turns back to tooniness with Toons excited about it. Losing, however, never really got any proper storyboard type thing in the game. And 12.4 is a little hard for me to decipher, as it questions whether or not you can quit the game or go back to the room from within a battle. My mind immediately thinks questioning whether or not you could rejoin a building if you quit and reopen the game, or maybe they're talking about quitting the battle but being able to rejoin the battle in the room. I don't know, it's kind of weird. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below what your interpretation on 12.4 is. And with that, that's the full Landmark Buildings design document, an incredible piece of Toontown history that I'm grateful we had to share. It's incredible to see differences noted, such as Toons all getting booted out when one goes sad, the very basic Toon building interior concept, and whatever trading is. What's your favorite part of the document? Let me know in the comments below. Going forward, I'm hoping to detail even more pieces of Toontown history, as Jeremy said in his post that more exists amongst the digitalized archives of Toontown Rewritten. I only hope these coming to the surface inspire Toontown Rewritten to scan and publicize these game documents. And of course, thank you again to JJ Coulthard for sharing these documents. If you haven't watched it yet, make sure you look out for my other video I uploaded today on the pet system, the foundational design document behind what would be Doodles and the entire scrapped future expansions contained within. Thank you all for watching.